And you may or not have heard this story, but we put our phone number on there. LeBron James is the first person to call.
Mm,
And when they call, they're supposed to give us what they want, the time they want it, and which hotel they're at.
mhm.
Saw the restaurant. I had a young lady there. LeBron James called. He said, "Hey, this is LeBron. I want food to so and so, so and so." And mind you, I had already told the staff what was going on, but it went one ear and out the other for the young lady. And
Jeez.
LeBron James called. She said, "Who?" And I said, "What's going on?" I was there. She's like, "Some
Mm.
LeBron James trying to order." I told her to hang up the phone. I immediately contacted my NBA contact and said, "Hey, instead of putting our restaurant's phone number, can you put my personal number on there and just say text or call?" But we're young, so people
Mhm.
want to text. They're younger than us.
Right,
They
right,
just
right.
and that's what really changed the whole game. They can just text me their order.
You are now listening to the Your First Steps podcast. It's great to talk about $1 million dreams, but where do we start? How do we get there? Listen up as you hear directly from real estate industry leaders on how they reached success in their fields. And most importantly, what were their first steps? Let's get this party started. Here's your host, Eli the Real Estate Guy.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode of the Your First Step podcast. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with no other than Josh Johnson. Josh, how you doing today, man?
Pretty good, man. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. I'm doing great. So, for those of you who do not know who Josh is, for the folks that don't know who you are, go ahead and give a brief introduction of who you are.
Brief introduction. Joshua Johnson. I'm 34 years old. I own a restaurant in Orlando, and I do Turo, and I do a couple other things. But in a nutshell, my main force right now is I own and operate a restaurant in Orlando.
Gotcha, gotcha. Good deal. So, now from what I realize whenever I'm interviewing folks is that whenever they end up doing a certain business, so whether it's apartment syndications, a restaurant, flipping houses, whatever it is, they're usually introduced to it as a child. So before we get into all of like your businesses and everything that you're doing now, what was it like growing up for you in your household? And then we'll kind of gradually go into where you are now. So, what was it like growing up in your household?
Growing up was cool, just like any other kid. A bunch of basketball, a bunch of video games, a bunch of cousins, a bunch of hot sausages. Um, that was pretty much it. What wasn't anything too crazy, not too low, not too high, but just a regular kid. Just really basketball and video games, really.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so now going back to basketball because I we know each other since I think it was sixth grade
Mhm.
is when we first met each other, and now basketball. Were you also one of the folks? I know I was, and clearly it didn't happen. Did you believe you were going to the NBA when you were
Oh,
playing basketball?
100%.
Yeah, everybody got you. Okay, and
I was
now
a high school senior still thinking I was still going to go to the
yeah,
NBA.
yeah, yeah. I feel you. Now, when was that? And I'll tell you the reality for me. So one, granted, I was never like the best person on the team. It was just I just made the team as I went on. But it
Yeah.
wasn't until I remember it was sophomore year. I remember the day. It was sophomore year, and there was some type of guidance counselor that came in, and everybody was kind of going one by one saying what they wanted to be when they got older. So first person was like, "Oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a this. I want to be a that." And then I'm like, "Oh, I want to be an NBA superstar." And she was like, "Ooh, have a backup plan." I'm like, "Backup plan? Like what are you talking about backup?" I'm like, and so literally every day of my life, it was just like, "All right, yeah, I'm not blooming the way I'm supposed to, but it's gonna click." And that was
Hmm.
the first day to where I actually was like, I actually may not make it to the NBA. And so what was that moment for you to where it's like, all right, let me start venturing into other things, just in case basketball doesn't work out?
It didn't hit me until I tried out for a community college, and if there was 100 people there, I was the 101 best one. That's when it hit
Gotcha.
me that
Gotcha.
everyone was too big, too fast, and I was guarding this guy, and I think he had like 25 on me.
Right.
That's when I
Right.
So it wasn't even in high school. This was after high school. Still think I was gonna make the NBA. I didn't realize I wasn't gonna make the NBA until I didn't make that junior college team.
Gotcha.
And
All right. And so once you went there, so what was your thought process there? Because now it's like, okay, well, basketball is not it. So what was your mindset going into, okay, well, I got to figure out what the next thing is?
I literally don't know. It really went to family members. My mom, my mom was working at a Disney at the time, and my brother was a chef, and so those were two of my outlets. And so I asked either of them or any of their jobs hiring. That was my next thing, like just trying to find a job.
Gotcha. Okay. And I know you went from you were in Orlando for a while, and then eventually you went to New York. Was there any other stops in between Orlando and New York?
No, it
Okay,
was not.
gotcha. So what
Yeah.
was that? Because I remember in high school, we spoke about, well, you were saying how you wanted to get into modeling while we are in high school. So at the time, I was like, okay, that's kind of random. Like we're all thinking basketball, but you were like, just randomly, I want to do modeling. And
Yeah.
so is that what brought you to New York? Was
Yeah.
the modeling? Okay.
The whole modeling thing even only came into my mind because as growing up, my aunties and grandmas would always say, "Man, you need to model, and you need to model." And in high school, you may or may not remember, everyone used to say I was a pretty boy, and so model, model, model. And I'm like, as you watch TV and the movies, they do modeling in New York, and so pretty much, a long story short, I don't know if you remember, but they used to have those radio ads like hey, if you want to become a model, dial this number, come to this convention.
Yeah.
I went to one of those conventions. It was over 300 people there, and I was one of the people that got offered a contract in New York.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So now you got the contract. What was your first gig? Like, was it a thing of you got a contract and you just sit and wait, or is it you getting a contract to then start doing something right away?
If you get by contract, I mean just getting signed to a manager. Once you get signed to a manager, that's when they start sending you out on auditions. My first gig, I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was like something small, like probably nothing even like national, maybe some local clothing brand or some local commercial. Because this was back in 2010. We're in 2023. Yeah, it's like how was that? 14 years ago? 13 years ago?
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like so. I can't remember, but I know it was just very something very small.
Gotcha. Okay, and now you started with that, and then eventually that grew into some other things that you did. So what's some of the more notable things that you did throughout that modeling? And I think was it acting as well, or was it just modeling?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Notable, like right now, like even right now to this day, you can catch me on Netflix on a show called Brainchild, episode called Superheroes. You can still find me on Disney Plus on a show called Brain Games. I was on a tattoo show. I forget what network it was on. But it's a top 15 network. Did some Nike stuff. I did a lot of cool things that I wish I can really, really remember. But the bulk of everything was from like 22 and 26. And not to lie to you, during that time, I was doing a lot of drinking, a lot of partying, so I forgot a lot of things. So I looked up stuff on like emails. I'm like, oh, I did that, but it was a wild time.
All right, and so what made you not want to stay in New York?
It really, the only reason why I'm not in New York right now, and I know we're gonna come back to this, but the only reason I'm not in New York right now is because the restaurants started to not do well while I was there.
Okay. So you started the restaurant while you were still in New York.
Right.
I did not know that. Okay. So now, all right. So you're in New York and you're doing your modeling, you're doing your acting, and you eventually got into this restaurant. So what sparked the idea of, you know what, I'm going to do a restaurant?
Super, super, super simple. In New York, we have a lot of small mom and pop restaurants. And my family's from here. I came down here and I wanted something like, something, real. And I only can find, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, the things I grew up on, but now
Right.
being in I had got exposed to like so many different kinds of foods.
Right. Right.
And I didn't see any of that. And I'm like, you know what? This is a lane that it's just really wide open.
Mhm.
And that's why I started my restaurant, just because I'm sorry, there were some, but none kind of how we have it particularly.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're saying that it was wide open and other restaurants are not like yours. So what did you see that was like, oh, there's nothing like this, and so let's try this?
So, like I wanted, like, say if I want some fried chicken, like some
Mhm.
homegrown fried chicken. I kind of looked it up, and these places were in the hood. Again, not again, but nothing wrong with the hood, but not everyone feels comfortable going to the hood.
Mhm.
B, a lot of these places didn't have, seating. Maybe they're out of gas stations. I feel comfortable eating out of gas stations. The
Yeah.
majority of people, I would say, don't feel comfortable, going to gas stations.
Mhm.
And see, they weren't cooked to order. They were like buffet style.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you know what, buffet style, you don't know if that chicken is just got out there or it's been out there for 14 hours. And
Yeah.
so that's what I realized, that what was missing was that
Mhm.
those three things. I want a place with seating, a good location, and cook to order.
Gotcha. All right. Now, when you were looking for, yeah, as you were forming this, was this something that you just noticed over time, or was it like a brainstorm that you had with family and said, okay, you know what? What's some things that you've noticed that is missing? And one person was like, oh, I'd like seating, or I'd like this, or was it just all like a, you know what? I'm gonna start this, and these are the things that I want. So, what was that session like?
Man, that's a good question, because it all kind of happened like organically.
Mhm.
I can't sit here and lie and say I wanted this, that, and the third. It kind of happened like, say like the location I have right now. I
Mhm.
wanted to not to be in the hood,
Mhm.
but honestly, if it was a location that I could afford, like if it was a location um that I could if the location I'm in right now, if I couldn't afford it, then maybe I would have been in the hood. But
Mhm.
since I could afford it, it was like, okay, well, boom, this is one of the things where I didn't want to be in the hood.
Right.
So it really wasn't a brain session. It's just how things, whether you believe in God or higher power, it was just definitely somebody like kind of like just putting the puzzles together, because it really wasn't no brainstorming. It kind of just all came together like organically.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Now, and you say your brother was a chef, which is amazing. Being in the restaurant business, it's great to have that. So, when it came to having your brother work with you, what was that talk like? When it came to like coming up with a menu, was it a thing of like, man, we should really have X, Y, and Z, and that'll be like our staples, and then you fill in the gap, or what was that conversation like to have that menu?
So I actually hired my brother like 4 or 5 months after we had been open. So he actually really didn't start
Mm,
with me.
okay.
But in place of my brother, I my first chef was my cousin. And basically the menu was, and this almost got me in trouble, but the menu was basically me looking at other people's menus and kind of just taking what they had and putting our own little twist on it.
Gotcha. Okay. And so what was, and maybe you don't want to be too specific, but what made it what prompted that decision to go from your cousin to your brother?
Being a chef is hard.
Mhm.
It's really hard. People think that it's just like, people think that, oh, I got an auntie, she knows how to cook. Let me open up a restaurant. It's
Gotcha.
not. And so that's what that was. She loved to cook,
Mhm.
but she didn't really know how to food control, food quality. And
Mm.
it's just two different things. So that's where the lines kind of got blurred.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So now your brother, he's on, and what were some of the slow changes or immediate changes that you saw once he came on? Uh,
And
so,
the changes were just, again, he was a prior chef before that one.
mhm.
So the changes was like a full like 180, as far as quality, as far as food control, as far as inventory, because he had the experience. So literally everything changed. The taste changed because instead of, say, in the beginning, say if my first chef was cooking 100 chickens a day, and in 2 weeks you're still eating the same hundred chicken, my
Mhm.
brother was like, hey, we are using 10 chickens, so let's cook two today, so that way tomorrow people are still eating food that is still really fresh.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Okay, good deal. So he came in with the system of having that knowledge of being an actual chef and
Right.
being like, hey, this is the other side beyond just cooking. There's this other part to it that does the quality. All right. So now the reason why I wanted to really bring you on to the podcast is because I wanted to look at the restaurant from a real estate perspective, right?
Okay.
And how there's some folks that'll be like, okay, well, I want to open up a restaurant, and they just find a location as long as it has a kitchen or whatever it is. I'm gonna open it and it's gonna be great because my food tastes good, right? But you're saying things of like you picked the right location because you didn't want to be in the hood. Now, was there a limit to how high end you want it to go as well? Or what was that thought process when it came to the location itself?
It really wasn't a thought process. It was really geared towards my budget, if we're being honest.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
I think I said I wanted like 1,000 square feet, but in my head, I had no idea what 1,000 square feet is.
Right.
Um, Basically, I would kind of go to places and be like, hey, how much square feet is this? Hey, this is it's 900 feet. And I look around, I'm like, okay, well, maybe my restaurant can be this size too, type thing.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I love that. And so, did you have any consultants or somebody that you reached out to say, hey, I'm thinking about starting this. I know you have a restaurant or you're familiar with this realm. What's some words of advice you would give me on this? Like, did you ever reach out to anybody with that?
No. And I messed up by not doing that. That's the reason why I almost failed.
Hmm.
But I did. But at the same time, there weren't too many people to ask either. I mean,
Okay.
not people that looked like me.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So, if you were to start over and
Mhm.
say with the resources that you had, the contacts that you had, what steps would you take if you would do anything different to like find somebody that could actually help you with that?
I wouldn't change anything.
Gotcha, gotcha. I feel you. I feel you. Yeah.
Wouldn't change.
So gotcha. So now when it comes to leasing a location, because of course you can buy a location and then you can lease a location. What made you decide to not buy a location and lease a location for your restaurant?
So I did a bunch of research actually into that, and it came to my knowledge very fast that I could not afford to buy
Mhm,
anything.
mhm, mhm.
There was literally one spot that was available, like that had a parking lot, and it was I can't remember what the price was, but I was like, yeah, I can't buy that one.
Gotcha.
So that's the only reason why I didn't buy, because I couldn't afford to.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, now when it came to the lease that you got, and of course there's tons of different types of leases. So, what type of lease did you use when it came to this? I know there's like the triple net lease. There's all different types of leases. So, what type of lease did you use to get this restaurant?
I'm actually not sure what type of lease I have, but I know I'm on a 5-year lease.
Okay, gotcha. So it's a 5-year lease. So with this, when they're charging like their rent, does it include like the buildings like taxes and other expenses for it as
Yep,
well? Okay,
yep.
gotcha, gotcha. So so to my understanding, that would be the triple net lease to where it's like repairs to the building, all that stuff is up to you as well.
Yes,
Got it, got
yes.
it. Okay, cool. So was that an option to not do that when you got the lease, or was it a this is the offer when you got it?
So yeah, uh that's what it was. There was
Gotcha.
no that, and I didn't know none of that stuff.
Gotcha, gotcha. Right, right. Gotcha. I feel you. But what I love about what you did is you went in and it's like, you know what? All I know is that I want to do this restaurant. And you figured it out and now you're doing great things. You had some great partnerships with businesses, and it's like you just learned as you went along the way, which is amazing. So, what are some of the lessons that you learned from when you coming into the restaurant? You're like, all I know is that I want to do this. What are
Mhm.
some things that you learned?
Man, when something breaks, it's going to be super expensive.
Okay. All right.
Um, never. Oh man, I mean, I'm just trying to knock it down to three things. It's always expensive. Every day something's going to go wrong. Every single day, something. It may be small, maybe medium, maybe large.
Mhm.
And third, that it's hard to find a good staff. It's very hard.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
I don't care if you pay $1 million to
Mm,
$5 to a million vacations. It's hard to find a staff that you can trust and rely on.
gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So before this, have you had to hire or do any hiring before you had the restaurant of like
No.
within so your restaurant was the first time you had to hire somebody. And then,
Yes.
bro, I love it. I love it, dog. I love it. I love it. Okay, so all right, so you learned about those aspects of it. Um Now I remember a video that you had. This was a while ago. I think it was, well, yeah, it was before you had the restaurant. Is when they were delivering the equipment for like the kitchen.
Hmm.
Right. So, what made you decide or know what equipment to actually buy for the restaurant?
So I actually used to be a server.
Okay.
I was a server. I had been a dishwasher. I had been like not a manager, but like a little fake manager when you're in these small little New York restaurants. They call you
Mhm.
the manager, but you're just the face of whatever.
Gotcha.
And I would always, like I said, like we both know, my brother was a chef. And so I would always become friends with the chefs, because to become friends with the chef, you kind of know how to work with chefs, because they can be very hot headed. But once they
Mm,
like you, they like you. And with me talking to them, I would always see the same setup, a flat iron, a fryer, a this and that. And that's how I found out what to get, was because my last server job, I actually told the chef I'm thinking about opening up a restaurant, and he was like, "You don't know anything about the restaurant business." I'm like, "I know, but what parts do I need?" So that's how it
mm.
started. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And so by speaking to him, you got some insight on at least these are some things. So what are some things that he said?
You need he basically asked for my menu, and because he's a chef, he looked at my menu. I'm like, okay, you're gonna need a flat iron. I'm sorry, flat top, fryer, a cooler, walk-in freezer, steam tables, spoons, forks, da da da. And so that's how that went down.
Gotcha. I love it. I love it. So something that I've said this on the last few podcasts is to be open to getting information or inspiration from wherever you are, right?
Hmm.
And what I love about what you did is that you didn't wait until you were signing a lease to then start doing research. Just say you're thinking about doing it, and then you just start looking and you start
Hmm.
doing your own research. And now, is there like any so if somebody wants to actually I ask that question later on. Uh, so when it came to the menu, you said that you went to other restaurants to kind of feel, okay, this is what they have. Let me add a little spin to it.
Yeah.
What did you look for in the menu to say, oh, this looks good? Let's take that and tweak it. Was there like certain like staples that you're looking for? Like I want a fried chicken. Their chicken looks good. Let's take that and add some like what were you looking for?
Um. Again, to be honest, I was really looking for stuff that I liked. That's really what
Mhm,
was it. And
mhm.
so if I liked it and it was on their menu, um, that was a logic. Which now was not the smartest logic, but
Right,
back
right.
then that was a logic. Like, hey, I like this. Let me see if they have it. And I mean, in my mind, like if they have it on the menu, it must sell. And so that was the whole logic. What I liked, and if they
Mhm.
had it, that's what was going on the menu.
Now, what did you have on the menu before that you thought was going to be a hit and it actually end up not working as well as you thought?
Anything vegetarian.
Really?
Yeah, we had like three, and I think it's the wave now, or maybe
Yeah.
it just passed,
Hmm.
but I think it's all the rage right now. But we're
Hmm.
talking about in 2010. We had vegetarian ravioli. We had vegetarian these olive things. He had so much vegetarian. And they were Eli.
Mhm.
I'm a meat eater. I love hot wings. You love hot wings
Yes, I
too.
do. Yes, I do.
We had these. I legit. I would eat it and could not. I'm not saying we had vegetarian chicken, but these vegetarian items like the ravioli, I did not know when I had it. I could not tell they were not vegetarian. That's how
Gotcha.
good they were.
Gotcha.
People
Gotcha.
did not order them.
Is it because it said vegetarian on them?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because I'm 100% I'm the same way when it comes to things to say if it has like one of those like names, so if it has a label of oh, this is whatever, then my mindset immediately goes to it's not gonna taste good. So if I eat it, I like even if it is good, it says vegetarian. So
Exactly.
like unless I'm trying to do something healthy, then why would I even order this?
Right.
So got it. Okay, got you. So now as you uh had your business, you are making changes, you're doing a lot of marketing, and something that I noticed that you're doing on Facebook a lot is that you are very engaging with being on social media
Mhm.
with everyone. So what was the thought process of you opening a restaurant and your marketing? What was the marketing strategy for your business?
Was no strategy.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
No strategy. It was just, I was even before the restaurant business, I was always on social media talking about nonsense.
Right.
And so, kind of like what's the word? Like maybe in the back of my head I had a strategy. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just knew that if I'm opening up something, people need to know I'm here. So
Mhm.
that was why.
Gotcha. And so I know eventually you were doing like you got publicity from being like on the news and doing these different things. And eventually you're able to have your food served in the NBA bubble. And for the folks that know what that was, so a couple years ago during COVID, shut down the NBA to where they could only play the playoff games basically in Orlando,
Mhm.
which is exactly where you are. So, how did that come about to where you were able to have your food on a menu of what these players could actually order?
So I was actually in New York when we got the email, and my brother hit me and he said, "Hey, the NBA wants to add us on like to the bubble." And I'm like,
Mhm.
I at this point I had been living in New York for like 12 years. I immediately said, "This is a scam. Don't reply. It's a scam." Like we had just opened up 3 or 4 months ago. I'm like, "It's a
Oh
scam."
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Wow.
I was like, yeah, don't email back. He's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, don't email back, bro. It's somebody just trying to get money. Like, I didn't see it a million times. He's like, all right, I won't reply. He doesn't reply. He gets another email and saying, hey, did you get our email? He tells me again. And I'm like, forward me the email. So he
Yeah.
forwards the email. And, I copy the number and paste it into Google.
Mm.
And it says NBA. I'm like, okay, but I've seen so much scamming stuff in New York.
Yeah.
They've created a fake website. Like, I've seen it all.
Right.
Oh, but no, I call the number NBA. I'm like, oh no, this
This is the
hang up. No,
NBA.
this is legit. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, they sent me the email, and basically it was a security guard had overheard these people talking about what we doing about food. And he's in the security guard pretty much said, hey, I know a good soul food spot. Like, I don't know if you guys are looking for big names, small names, but they have good food. You guys should check them out. And that's what they
Wow.
did. They sent in secret eaters. They enjoyed the food, and that's when we got the email. But yeah, that's how it all started, from a security guard overhearing
Man,
a conversation.
I love it. Okay. This is so all right. I love that. And it makes me think about how folks that go to church, or if you listen to motivational things or whatever, you'll hear how basically when it comes to faith, it's not a matter of, in so many words, knowing step 10. All you need to know is step one. And then once
Mm-hmm.
step one comes, then step two will reveal itself. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to, like, you couldn't have planned on, okay, well, once I do this, I'm going to open up the restaurant. Then 4 months later, the NBA is going to hit me up and then I'm going to serve that. It was just what do I? Okay, I'm thinking about opening a restaurant. Let me ask the chef. Hey, what should I even have? Like, this is my menu. What should? Okay, you should do this, this, and this. Okay, cool. I did that. Now what? Okay, cool. Okay, let me experiment. Let me try some things. Okay, then okay, y'all like that. Oh, y'all don't like that. Okay, cool. And something that you used to do a lot too that I thought was very interesting, and it really showed that you were trying to listen to the people, because it's like it's one thing to be in your own head and be like, I know these wings are going to hit. It's got to be successful. You would ask like, hey, what do y'all think?
Yeah,
Y'all
what
like
y'all
this?
think? What
Price is
y'all
too
juice?
high. You know what I'm saying? And you did that. So I love how things just kind of fell in place to where you did a step and then you went on to the next thing. Now, I'm assuming you wouldn't say, hey, if you want to open up a restaurant, don't have a plan, just go. I'm sure that's not what your
No.
advice would be. But when it comes to opening up a restaurant, what's like the first thing that you would say, like, hey, you think about doing this, think about this.
Well, I'm sorry. Say it one more time.
Like when you're thinking about opening up a restaurant, what's some of the first things that they should actually do? Like what were their first steps?
The very first step is to find someone in that field and go talk to them.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm assuming to determine if you even want to do it.
Yes, even if you want to do it. And they don't have to be local. They can just, and you may have to make one call, you may have to make 50, you may have to make 200 until someone actually sits down and talk to you. But I'm sorry, let me go back. Find find someone to talk to that you know that they're actually doing well and making money, not just open.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
Not
Makes
open.
sense. Gotcha. Now, kind of going back to the bubble. Once you got the email, then what happened after that?
So yeah, we got the email and it was very fast. So we got the email, we signed everything. It was pretty much things that we are already doing. Hey, can you send over your food license to make sure you're legit? Even though we have a restaurant, we sent over those things, and through that we got added on. So the NBA, so the whole staff in the bubble had an app, and that app had had the 10 restaurants on it, and we were added on to that app. So basically, that's what it was: email telling us what we needed to do. We signed that, and as soon as we signed that, they added us on to this NBA app.
Gotcha. Okay, so once they download the app, then that's when you guys just start getting the orders from
Kind of
there.
sort of. This is where I broke the internet. This is what kind of really broke the internet for me and Shauna's was that they added us on to this app, and we put our phone number on there. And you may or not have heard this story, but we put our phone number on there. LeBron James is the first person to call,
Oh,
and when they call, they're supposed to give us what they want, the time they want it, and which hotel they're at.
uh-huh.
Saw the restaurant. I had a young lady there. LeBron James called. He said, "Hey, this is LeBron. I want food to so and so, so and so." And mind you, I had already told the staff what was going on, but it went one ear and out the other for the young lady. And
Jeez.
LeBron James called. She said, "Who?" And I said, "What's going on?" I was there. She's like, "Some
Mm.
LeBron James trying to order." I told her to hang up the phone. I immediately contacted my NBA contact and said, "Hey, instead of putting our restaurant's phone number, can you put my personal number on there and just say text or call?" But we're young, so people
Mhm.
want to text. They're younger than us.
Right,
They
right,
just want
right.
to text. And that's what really changed the whole game. They can just text me their order, my personal.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and even though that was a simple gesture, what I don't want to go over people's head is what you did in that situation. You identified what was going to be a potential issue that could have been really bad. Because
Yes.
if LeBron calls and it's like, what is this? Oh, scam. Up like chaos. Nobody's ordering again because LeBron is like, hey, everybody,
Yes.
don't
This
order
place
from these
sucks.
people. Okay. And so I'm assuming he got his order or whatever other people came. It was great. All right.
Yeah.
And so from, from there, and I guess pretty much I'm just saying problem solved. You saw an
Yeah.
issue, and that was part of there's always something wrong that happens every day. And as the owner, it's identify it, create a solution immediately. And now this is the proper channels of where things should be. All right.
Mhm.
So I guess this is kind of so what are some other issues that came up? It may not have been something like that, but what's another issue to where it's like something happened and you're like, oh, let me make this change right now, and then it solved that? What are some other issues that you had in your business?
Through the bubble.
No, just through the bubble, or let's stay with the bubble. Yeah.
One of the issues were if they wanted, so they only had 3 days to order.
Mhm.
No, I'm sorry, they only had 3 days that because we didn't deliver it. They had their own delivery drivers,
Mm,
so they could get food from us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and the time frames were pickup were like say 3 p.m., 5 p.m., and let's say 7 p.m. One of the issues I found out was that these players would want if the pickup was at 5, they're supposed to give us 24-hour heads up. And these players aren't thinking about what they want to eat in 24
right,
hours.
right, exactly.
And so one of the things that I did was I called my NBA contact and I pretty much just asked for like on-demand delivery drivers because I was getting so many text messages that
Mhm.
I felt like I was losing business saying, hey, we can't even deliver right now, or it's not going to be there until 3 o'clock. Because as the players, the NBA probably isn't telling the players what they've told us.
Right,
So they're thinking I'm just saying, no, I can't do it. And like you said before, if one player says, "Oh, it's bad," everyone's going to think it's bad.
exactly.
So one of the things I did was I asked for more drivers, and I asked for them to like kind of be at Shauna's like 24/7.
Mm,
And so when I
gotcha.
got these calls, because I mean, we would have a player call and say, "Hey, I want 400 shrimp, 300 wings,
Holy
and whatever,
cows.
whatever." And I want it, dropped off here at 7 o'clock. And here it is, like 5:30. I'm like, what? That's not even plausible.
Right,
But
right,
billionaires, and they're not. People don't usually tell them no.
right,
So that
right.
was one of the things. Just having people like on-demand drivers to get them the food when they wanted it.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. And so well, I'm assuming the bubble ended once the championship ended. And
Mhm.
so from that experience of working in the bubble, what came from that?
Oh man, inventory, and kind of watching your numbers to know exactly what you're selling. Because even though
Mm,
my brother was a chef before, they already had a system in place, and he didn't have to do too much of like building a system.
right.
The bubble helped us build a system to know that I need to watch. Like at one point, like before the bubble, we would go to the store and buy 300 wings. If you ask us why we bought 300 wings, we would be like, we would just get 300 wings.
Right.
But after the bubble, we knew like how many wings did we sell in the past few weeks? We sold 200 wings. And so that's when like, we don't need 300 wings. We need 200 wings. And then we start creating pars. Like how
Mm,
much mac and cheese pans did we go through? How much rice and peas pans did we go through? Because we had a lot of food waste, but since we both didn't know the system, we were like, oh, this is food waste. It happens.
mhm.
No, food waste happens, but it doesn't have to happen as long as you have pars. So
Gotcha.
out of the bubble, it was knowing the pars of all our foods.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Now that okay. So that's interesting. So I worked in Target for a little bit as a assistant manager, and I remember them. So not only Target, I worked at like Starbucks at a plaza that had like a Sabaros like pizza, and I worked around food before. And so they would have their food waste at the end of the day. It's like, all right, take this food, bag it up, throw it in the trash. Is that what you do as well, or is it a pack this up and this could benefit
Are we
somebody
talking about like right now? Right now?
right now, or at some point? Just the idea of, instead of just tossing, could it be just packaged up and given to like a homeless person or something?
So the pros and cons to that.
Mhm,
Back then, we would pack it up and give it to homeless people. The
mhm.
con of that, now we don't have any waste. We don't have any. I mean, we give food to the homeless still, but it's
Mhm.
not waste that.
Gotcha. Because
Yeah.
the system is a lot more lean now, and there's a lot. I love it. I love it. Okay, perfect. And so now you have the restaurant business, and you also have other businesses. So, what are your other businesses right now?
Right now it's Turo. Renting out cars. and I also own a couple of houses, and I only rent them out to travel nurses.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, so like a short term rental type
Yeah,
situation for them. Got it.
free.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now, what made you decide to do Turo and having those rentals?
The Turo started once the restaurant started making a couple of dollars. Porsches were always my dream car,
Mhm.
and somebody was like, "Why don't you just get one off of Turo?" And I was like, "What's Turo?" And someone was like, "That's Airbnb, but for cars." I'm like, "Okay." So I get on Turo, get a Porsche 911. As soon as the money left my account, I'm like, how much did that guy make? And
Mm,
that's why I wanted to start the business because I'm like, I just spent a ridiculous amount. I only had the car for 2 days. I'm like,
right,
stupid. I barely even had the money to do this.
right,
But
right.
but I was like, yeah, this is something I should look into.
Gotcha. Okay. And now, once you did that, was it a matter of okay? And the reason why I'm asking this is because there are people who suggest uh getting your dream cars, getting the Rolls Royce, getting the Porsche, getting the Ferraris, getting all these things, and you can afford them, and you don't have to pay for them because you can just rent them out for a couple weekends a month, and it pays for the card note, right? So, is that what you do as well, or was it just so? What was
No,
your thought process? Okay.
no. And that the people who do that, no. Um, no, my thought process was just, it's just extra income.
Right. Gotcha.
That,
Gotcha.
that was really it. Extra income.
Gotcha. Now, is it, well, do you have a fleet of cars or how many
Yeah.
cars do you have? Okay, got so how many cars do you have and what type of cars do you have in your Turo fleet?
I have a couple of Porsches. I have a one Bentley. I have a couple of BMWs and a Jeep.
Gotcha. Now, what made you decide to pick those cars to be in your fleet?
Looking up the Orlando market and seeing what they didn't have that many of. Like
Mm,
Jeeps actually have a lot of Jeeps, but only one red Jeep. So I got a red Jeep. And things like Porsches. If you go on the Orlando market, there's not many Porsches. Like Bentleys, there's like one other Bentley. So I pretty kind of how the restaurant was. I looked at there was no competition. You never want any competition. So I got cars that it wasn't a lot of competition.
gotcha. And so so I'm assuming the Porsche was the first car
Yeah.
that you got on there. So
Mhm.
once you got the Porsche on there, what was that? What happened to where you're like, all right, now it's time for a second car?
It stayed booked. Like
Gotcha.
it was booked so much that I would get text messages like, and again, not real quick story. A reason why I'm so good at Turo's because if you ever looked at Turo's profile,
Mm,
I'm one of the few ones that I put my personal number on there that you can text. Like, hey, if you got any questions, give me a call. But
mm,
uh, but to go back to the point, I knew it was time because my Porsche would be out, and I would get a text saying, "Hey, can I rent your car?" I'm like, "Oh, it's already out." I was like, "Okay, I'll rent it out next week." I'm like, "No, it's rent out next week." I'm like, "Now it's time because I'm getting 2 and 3 people trying to book it, but it's already booked. It's been booked for 2 months right now."
gotcha. Okay. And so now so you have the Turo business, and now when it came to the rental business, what made you decide to not do a traditional rental? What made you decide to do the short-term rental or midterm rental with the travel nurses?
Again, experience. My ex-girlfriend was a travel nurse, and I actually met her while she was traveling. She was only supposed to stay in New York in 6 months. We ended up dating. She ended up signing a long-term lease in New York. But yeah, that's the only reason why I did it because I learned that they give her stipends. They give her stipends to be a travel nurse. So I'm like, how does that work? And she was like, yeah, travel, da da da, find a place to live, and and that's how it all started. Is me
Gotcha.
dating her and knowing that they get their rent paid for.
Gotcha. Okay. And now you have two right now. Are they like single family houses? Are they apartments? Or what type of building are those
They're
rentals in?
single family houses. One has 4 bedrooms, one has five, but I rent out rooms.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's all right. So that's next level. So when your ex was renting out the spot, was she renting out a house or was it an apartment?
It was an apartment.
It was a part. Okay. So what was that transition of, okay, I'm gonna get a house, but I'm going to rent out the room? What made you decide to do that?
I just knew that, you get more money. Actually, so what Shauna's is that it used to be a Circuit City,
Hmm.
and they cut it up to make more money.
Hmm.
And so I pretty much took it from that. I'm like, well, if I get a house, what's one person going to like? I'm going to get a 1-bedroom house, 2-bedroom house. So, you just make, and I'm sorry, I've done so many things in my life. In New York, we live in these places where, well, I've lived, my first apartment was in Newark, and I lived somewhere where there was ten people in the house.
Hmm.
And I know that landlord made so much money. So it's like a whole bunch of ideas, but I knew that, it makes more sense to get a house and rent them out room by room to make more money.
Gotcha. 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 Okay. Makes sense. So now you're doing that. Is that something that you're planning on expanding, or is it you touch it and it's like, all right, this is cool, but your eyes are on something else, or both?
I kind of go like what like right now makes money, but the more you have, but the more house you have, the more headaches it is. And so I really don't have like a true like lockdown plan. So right now I'm good with two. I think in my mind I want something that's going to come, that's going to be like say a real estate like even the plaza that I'm in. I would love to just own a plaza and just obviously there's problems, but I would rather just own something really, really big
Hmm.
and just kind of sit back and collect money. I would not
Gotcha.
like to own like 30 houses of nurses. That's just too much going on.
Gotcha.
I've
Gotcha.
had a
Gotcha.
plaza and there's like a high rent. That's what I want to. That's what I want.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, cool. Now, are there other businesses that you, besides that, so owning a plaza and renting things out, has there been any other business venture that, in the back of your mind, you'd be like, man, that'd be really cool to do one day, if I have the opportunity.
I'm sure there has, but now I've kind of really scaled back because now I'm really more into just investing into other people and kind of like making my money through that one. So
Hmm.
maybe right now in the back of my head, but yeah, not so much. Now I think my thing is just like, yo, invest here, invest there, solid investor, do this, do that, and kind of just sit back.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, cool. So now at this part of the show is when I ask people their three favorite books that they would recommend whenever it comes to entrepreneurship. There are some folks that I interviewed that they're like, you know what? I don't read, but I listen to podcasts. And there are some folks that's like, oh, I got 3 books. Let me give you 10 books. 3 books is not enough. So, what are 3 books that you would recommend for anybody that's looking to start a restaurant or in their entrepreneurial journey?
I don't read it all.
Gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
don't think I read one book. And you know what? No, I read a Rick Ross autobiography and a Stephen A. autobiography. But no, other than that, I do not read.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, what do you say to folks that uh, they're sticklers on reading and they feel like all of knowledge is within the books, basically?
I think I wouldn't agree or disagree. I just think that everyone has their own way of really doing things.
Hmm.
Like obviously in the world, like everyone does different stuff. And so again, I wouldn't agree or disagree. I would be like that if that's your MO, then that's yours and that's all that matters. If that helps you, then who cares if it doesn't help you or him or whatever, as long as it help you for sure. Because we both know people who read books and you talk to them, you're like, hey, you smart. And they be like, yeah, I read a lot of books. I'm like, okay, that makes
Right.
sense.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, it's everyone's different. Everyone's on different paths.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, so now this is the lightning round, to where I'm going to ask you three random questions, and just kind of tell me the first thing that comes to mind, and then I'll ask you why afterwards. So, first question is: if you were to have dinner with one person that lived within the last 200 years, who would it be and why?
Kobe Bryant, just because I know his story almost better than anybody, and just whether it's him um, going through the rape allegations in Denver, and but still dropping 45 points in the playoffs, just being mentally strong. Whether it's I don't know if you know, but in '96, we airballed those balls in Utah, but just how he stayed mentally focused throughout the whole thing. Because I mean, even so, where Allen Iverson was better than him his rookie year, like way, way better than him.
Mhm.
And like, how did he look at that and it's like still just want to work harder? Like, it's like if you watch them two like rookie things,
Mhm.
it's like you would think he had no chance to ever be better than Allen
Mhm.
Iverson.
Mhm.
But how he did. Also, I would ask, like, how did you just stay so engaged throughout your whole entire career? Like, how?
Gotcha. I love it. All right. And if you were to open up a restaurant outside of New York or Florida, where would it be and why?
It would be a place where it doesn't have soul food because we get a lot of customers that come in from different areas and they always say the same thing like, man, if you ever open up another one, open it up in XYZ because there's nowhere like it. So I don't have a specific place, but it would just be a place with no soul food in it, and it would pop off fast.
Gotcha. I love it. All right. The last question. If you could be any animal, which animal would it be and why?
Any animal, any
And don't
animal.
say lion.
Okay. Any animal. I'm gonna go with bear
Okay.
because it's nice to have feet and paws.
What?
Um, you know,
Okay.
you can do stuff, right?
It's
And
good to have feet and paws.
huh?
You say it's good to have feet and paws. That's why you
No,
want to be a bear.
yeah, feet and paws. Yeah, like you got four things to like.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's your reason.
No,
So
that's not the reason. That's not
okay.
no.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons. Another reason, like you're high up on the food chain, you don't have to worry about people attacking you. And yeah, I guess I was supposed to give one. That would be the one reason. Like I'm high up on the food chain.
Okay. I love it. All right. And you said, "Good, you got feet and paws." You see, it's like okay. Uh,
Yep.
and so, all right. So you explained if somebody wants to start a restaurant, you would first find somebody that is successful at having a restaurant, and then you would ask them, what to do. So, with that, what would you say is the best approach to come to somebody that's successful at a restaurant?
The best approach would just be straight up honest. Like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. How should I do it? Just as simple as that. Don't overthink it.
Mhm.
Don't underthink it. Be like exactly what you want to do. Hey, I want to open up a restaurant. This is what I think. What do you think? That's the simplest way to do it.
Gotcha. I love it. All right. So, words of wisdom to anybody that's interested in entrepreneurship, open a restaurant, rentals, whatever it is. What are some words of wisdom that you have for the listeners?
Be even kill. Never get too low. Never get too high. When you're riding high, just know that something's going to happen that's going to knock you down. And then when you get low, just know that if you stay focused, it's going to get high. You can't get too mad. You can't get too sad. You have to stay even killed through it all. Because when you have a clear mind, that's when you can make effective decisions. If you get too happy, you just make bad decisions. You get too sad and you make stupid decisions. But if you even kill, you can make much better decisions.
Gotcha. I love it. Hey, Josh, thank you so much for doing this episode, man. I greatly appreciate it.
And thank you for having me, man. It's been a blast.
All right,
Pete and Paul.
Thank you for listening to the Your First Steps podcast. Let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a review. And don't forget to subscribe.